Matt. My name is Matt Alt, and I've been living in Japan for the last 13 years, and I co-found and cooperate a translation company, and I act as a reporter on Japanese TV from time to time. Well, my company, it's called Alt Japan. We specialize in translating entertainment, and what that basically means is video games for the most part. Video games, also comic books, packaging for toys and models, all sorts of things like that. I was really lucky in that where I grew up, there was a Japanese program at my public high school, and I took it, and that was kind of the start of this big adventure in learning Japanese and coming to Japan. Specifically, what got me into Japan were Japanese toys. Back in the 70s when I was growing up, and this was right before the Transformers boom hit, there were a couple series of Japanese robot toys that came to the States. The Shogun Warriors was a famous one. And then when the Transformers fad hit in the early 80s, then boom, all of these Japanese robot toys started coming in. And as a kid, I was just like, wow, these are so awesome. Aspiring translators, yeah. I mean, read a lot in your native language, write a lot in your native language. I think writing ability in the target language, in other words, your native language, because you should always be translating into your native language, is definitely by far the key defining feature of a good translator. Because I've worked with a lot of people who have like spectacular Japanese credentials. You know, they went to an Ivy League school, they passed like level 1 of the Japanese language test. They're great speakers of it, but they're just not good translators. They're good at lots of other things, but they're just not good translators because it's really about your writing ability in your native language. And just like I was saying with that having to infer things, like it really helps to have a big vocabulary and a lot of different ways of saying things to try to put sentences together in English. This, of course, is more true for entertainment translation and things like that. For technical, it's a little less so because technical Japanese, of course, has to spell things out more. Otherwise, patents and instruction manuals are going to be missing big chunks of context. But yeah, writing ability. Your native writing ability, I think, is something you really need to focus on if you want to become a good translator. I love translating things that have never been translated before. I mean, as a translator, that's like, you know, setting foot on a mountain that's never been climbed, or maybe a hill, or even just a little bump in the case of some of these obscure things that we translate. For instance, Hiroko and I this year are coming out with a translation of a book called Gazu Hyaki Yagyo by an artist named Toriyama Sekien. He wrote it back in 1776, and it's a yokai guide with little explanatory text. Nobody's ever translated into English before, and so Hiroko and I were really relishing the opportunity to get to translate these words that nobody has really ever read in English before. And they were written back when George Washington was president. Like, to me, that was, you know, a pretty amazing thing to get to work on. And so the most satisfying things by far are things that wouldn't get translated into English otherwise, or haven't been yet. Japan's this kind of distant land that keeps to itself and is kind of quiet. You know, China is this up-and-coming tiger. There's a lot of scary stories coming out of China, and like China's a great country, but it's on a very aggressive campaign right now to remake its image and become the dominant power in the world. You know, Korea is at war with itself. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stories coming out of there. Southeast Asia is still largely developing place of the world. Japan is this weird, in the sense of historically speaking, Asian, alien, faraway land that's still a first world country and is very well developed and doesn't have, you know, anything scary going on in it, so you can kind of project your own dreams onto it, you know. And Japan, I think, is very much a canvas. It's more of an idea almost to a lot of people than it is a country. And it's the reality of it is very different, I think, than what a lot of like Japan fans in the United States who've never been here think of it. You know, there's always the grass is always greener kind of thing, and dream versus reality. Japan or anywhere else is what you bring to it. You know, if you are coming to Japan because you're running away from something, you're going to be running away from something here too. I didn't move here because I hated America. I didn't move here because I wanted to get away from America. In fact, I love going. I wish I could live in both places at the same time. But the people who I found here who are the most disillusioned and angry about Japan, I've found are the people who would be disillusioned and angry if they lived in the States or in France or Spain or wherever they lived. People try to reinvent themselves by going to far off places, but you can never run away from yourself. You know what I mean? It's all about what you bring to it, what you bring to the table. I mean, Japan is just different. You know, Japan is not a utopia. There's lots of things wrong with Japanese society. Just like there's lots of things wrong with American society or Canadian society or, you know, South African society, you know? There's all over the world, countries have their own strengths and weaknesses. Japan's peculiar blend of strengths and weaknesses just seem to mesh well with my personality, and that's why I enjoy living here. If I came here with a chip on my shoulder or, you know, trying to change Japan, you know, maybe I would feel differently, but I don't. I go with the flow. You know, I do try to change things my own way, but not because I think I'm right and Japan is wrong. You know, it's just you have to live for who you are, and you can only change yourself. You can't change the things around you. You can only change the way you react to them or think about them. You know, but I think that's the secret to happiness anywhere, not just in Japan.